You ever hear something outside your house that you just can't explain? I'm 32, live alone in a small house surrounded by open fields and a thin line of woods. The nearest neighbor's half a mile away, and most nights the loudest thing I hear is the wind brushing against the siding. It's the kind of quiet that makes you feel safe, or at least, it used to. That night started like any other. Day off. Fixed a leaky faucet, scrolled on my phone, enjoyed the silence. Around 9 I was upstairs in bed, lights off, watching YouTube with the window cracked open for the cool air. Then I heard it. At first, I figured it was from the video, just faint voices in the background. But when I paused it, the sound didn't stop. 2 men. Maybe 3. Their tones were low, deliberate, like they didn't want to be heard. My stomach dropped. Nobody should have been out there. There's no sidewalk, no traffic, no reason for anyone to be that close to my property. My driveway stretches 40 yards from the main road. If someone was near the house, they meant to be. I sat up, listening. The words were too soft to make out. When I stepped toward the window, the voices cut off instantly. Dead silence. That chill, the one that crawls through you when you know you're being watched, hit me hard. I couldn't see anything, just the shapes of trees and the porch light reflecting in the glass. But I could feel it. Eyes. Watching. I backed away, telling myself it was hunters, or maybe someone lost. But why go quiet the second I moved? 10 minutes passed. Nothing. Curiosity finally won, so I grabbed my flashlight and crept downstairs, checking every window. The beam sliced through the dark, showing only empty fields beyond the fence line. Still, that feeling wouldn't leave. Every time I passed a window, I expected to see a face staring back at me. After a while, I decided to step outside, just for a second, to prove I was overreacting. I flipped on the porch light, opened the door, and stepped onto the deck. The cold air hit like a slap. Nothing moved. No voices. No footsteps. Just crickets and wind over the fields. But something felt wrong, the kind of silence that presses down on you, the kind that listens back. I scanned the yard, the trees, the shadows. Nothing. Yet every instinct screamed that someone was standing just beyond the edge of the light. I turned and rushed back inside, locking the door behind me. And the second I did, that sickening sense of being watched, faded. Like I'd crossed some invisible line. I stood there breathing, half laughing at myself, then went upstairs and tried to sleep. It took almost an hour, but eventually I drifted off. That peace didn't last. I woke up to a crash so loud it shook the floor. I bolted upright, heart pounding, and ran to the hall. Shattered glass glittered across the floor, a rock had been thrown straight through the back window. Before I could even move, I heard them again. The voices. Louder this time. The crash echoed through the whole house, sharp enough to make my chest lock up. Shards of glass glittered across the hallway floor. Then I heard them again, the voices. Only this time, they weren't whispering. They were shouting. At least 4, maybe 5 men. One yelled, "This way." Another barked something I couldn't make out. Then came the first hit against the front door, a bone-deep slam that rattled the frame and sent the picture frames on my wall shaking. I froze for a split second, then bolted to my room, slammed the door, and locked it. My hands were shaking so hard I nearly dropped my phone as I called 911. The dispatcher answered instantly, her voice steady and calm. "What's your emergency?" There's people breaking into my house." I gasped. "They already shattered a window, I can hear them at the door." She told me officers were on the way, less than 10 minutes out. Then came another slam, louder. The sound punched through the walls. The men outside were laughing now, their voices echoing through the dark like it was all a game. Then came the sound of boots crunching glass. They were inside. I whispered, "They're in the house." The dispatcher's tone never wavered. Stay quiet. Find somewhere to hide. I looked around, nowhere safe. The door was thin, hollow core, wouldn't last a single hit. Then I remembered the window. The house was a low ranch style, the roof sloped just below the frame. Not exactly safe, but it was my only way out. I dropped the phone, unlocked the window, and climbed out. The cold air hit me hard, my heart hammering in my throat. Behind me, the men hit the bedroom door. Bam! The wood cracked. Bam! Splinters shot off the frame. One more hit, and the door burst open. I scrambled onto the roof, dragging the window shut behind me. My hands were shaking so bad I could barely move. From below, I heard them storm into the room, boots slamming against the floor, drawers yanked open. Someone laughed, long and drawn out. "Where you hiding, buddy?" a man called, his tone light, mocking. Another said, "Check the closet." I pressed myself flat against the cold shingles, trying not to breathe. The air fogged in front of me. They tore through my room, tossing things around. Then silence. One of them must have noticed the open window. The laughter stopped. "He went outside," someone said. Bootsteps moved closer to the window. I held my breath. From where I was lying, I could see the yard below, dark shapes moving fast, flashlights sweeping across the grass. My porch light flickered as one of them passed beneath it. One man leaned halfway out the window, shining his flashlight along the roof. The beam skimmed over my arm, inches away, before turning away. "Nothing up here," he shouted. He probably ran. I didn't move. Didn't breathe. Just waited. They stayed inside for what felt like forever, ransacking the kitchen, slamming doors, overturning furniture. Then, faintly, I heard it, the distant wail of sirens. The mood shifted instantly. "Let's go," someone yelled. "Cops are coming." Their boots thundered toward the front door, and then, silence. I stayed on that roof until red and blue lights flashed across the field. When officers finally spotted me, I was shaking too hard to climb down. They helped me off and walked me through what was left of the house. Every window shattered. Doorframe split. Furniture overturned. But nothing, not a single thing, was missing. They hadn't come to rob me. One officer, older guy, steady voice, glanced around and said quietly, "This doesn't look like a break-in for cash. More like intimidation, or something worse." That thought hit harder than the cold air. The police searched the surrounding fields, but found nothing, no footprints, no tire tracks, nothing but the open dark. I stayed at a friend's place for a few nights after that. Even now, years later, I still can't sleep without double-checking every lock. And sometimes, when the night gets too quiet, I swear I still hear it, not voices, just faint movement in the dark. Like someone's waiting for me to look out the window again. Last Halloween was supposed to be a fun night. I had plans to hit this big costume party with a few friends, the kind where everyone drinks too much, takes dumb pictures, and laughs about it later. But that morning, the host texted that the party was off, their parents came home early and shut it down. Just like that, my plans were toast. I'd already psyched myself up for an all-nighter, so instead, I ended up sleeping half the day and waking to a completely empty evening. So, I did what any bored 20-something does, made some popcorn, scrolled through my phone, and threw on an old horror flick to keep me company. My house isn't big, one story, open layout. From the couch, I can see straight into the kitchen on the left, and on the right, a row of curtained windows facing the street. I usually keep those curtains shut. There's something about staring out into the dark that never sits right with me. Around 11 p.m., halfway through the movie, I caught movement, just a flicker, through the small gap in the curtains. I paused the movie, glanced toward it. Nothing. A few minutes later, it happened again, a flash, like something shifting just outside the glass. Probably the wind, I muttered. But after the third time, curiosity got the better of me. I got up, crossed the room, and slowly pulled the curtain back. At first, all I saw was my reflection, then my eyes adjusted. There was a man standing across the street. He wasn't close, just under the streetlight. His clothes were dark, looked like some cheap Halloween costume. But the way he moved, it was weird. He was walking in slow, uneven circles, back and forth, like he couldn't remember what he was doing there. I figured he was drunk. Maybe coming home from another party that hadn't been cancelled. His arms hung limp, head dipped low. My phone said 1:07 a.m. I watched for a while, waiting for him to wander off, maybe trip over a bush, something normal. He didn't. He just kept pacing. Eventually, I shrugged it off, closed the curtains, and went back to my movie. But I couldn't relax. Every few minutes, I found myself glancing toward the window again, wondering if he was still out there. Then, 3 solid knocks on the front door. I froze. No one knocks at 1:20 in the morning unless something's wrong, or something's off. For a moment, I didn't move. Then another knock. I stood slowly, staying quiet, and peeked through the peephole. It was him. The man from the street. Only now, he wasn't pacing. He was standing dead still, facing the door, hands at his sides. Even through the tiny glass, I could see his eyes, wide open, unblinking, staring straight at the handle, like he was waiting for it to turn. My stomach dropped. He didn't move. Didn't blink. Just stood there in total silence. Every instinct screamed, "Don't open the door." I thought about yelling at him to leave, but something about the way he stared, like if he knew I was right there, he wouldn't stop, made me freeze. After what felt like forever, he finally stepped back. I held my breath and watched him walk down the sidewalk, past my driveway, until the shadows swallowed him. I waited 5 full minutes before stepping away. My hands were shaking. I kept telling myself he was drunk, maybe thought it was his house, maybe just lost. I sat back down, grabbed a blanket, turned the TV on, anything to drown out that unease. But around 2 a.m., with the movie barely playing in the background, I heard it again. A faint tap, tap, tap. At first, I ignored it. Then it came again, soft but deliberate. Coming from the opposite end of the house. That tapping sound froze me in place. It wasn't random, it had rhythm, almost polite, like someone knocking just soft enough not to wake the house. Tap, tap, tap. It came from the far side of the living room, right by the couch where I'd been sitting. I turned the TV down. Another 3 taps. Then silence. I crept toward the window, trying not to make a sound. The blinds were still drawn, but the noise stopped before I reached them. 5 seconds, 10, nothing. Then, bang, 3 hard taps hit the glass, so sharp I stumbled back. "Jesus," I whispered, heart hammering in my throat. For half a second, I almost pulled the blinds open, I don't even know why, maybe I just had to see. But the memory of that guy under the streetlight slammed into me, and I stopped myself. I backed away, grabbed my phone, and dialed 911 with shaking hands. The dispatcher picked up fast. "911, what's your emergency?" I whispered, "Someone's outside my house. He was at my door earlier, now he's tapping on my windows." She took my address, told me to stay on the line. I crouched behind the couch, clutching the phone. For a few seconds, it was dead quiet. Then came a sound, a slow drag across the glass, like fingers sliding down it. And a voice. Soft. Calm. Male. "Why'd you close the curtains?" My blood went cold. I couldn't speak. My throat locked up. The dispatcher must have heard it too, because her voice came back firm, do not engage. Officers are on the way. Stay hidden. Footsteps moved along the porch, circling toward the side of the house. His tone changed, sharper now. Come on, he said, just open the door. I just need to talk to you. The tapping started again, traveling window to window, slow and deliberate. Please hurry, I whispered into the phone. Then, silence. A full minute passed. Nothing. I told the dispatcher I thought he was gone. That's when I heard a creak, behind me. The back door handle was turning. Just enough for the latch to click. I froze, praying I'd locked it earlier. The handle jiggled harder, then stopped. Police are 2 minutes out, the dispatcher said. Before I could answer, another sound, the faint pop of a window latch from the kitchen. He was trying to get in. Adrenaline took over. I ran for the hallway closet, slipped inside, pulled the door shut. Total darkness. I crouched, trying to quiet my breathing. For a few seconds, nothing but my heartbeat. Then, from the kitchen, tap. 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 He was inside. Footsteps on the tile. Slow. Careful. Dragging. He passed through the living room, into the hall. Each creak of the floor came closer. I pressed a hand over my mouth. Then, 3 soft knocks on the closet door. I see you. I almost screamed. But before I could move, a voice boomed from outside, police. Come out with your hands up. The front door exploded open. Boots pounded the floor. The man's footsteps turned and sprinted the other way, toward the back. Then silence again. A minute later, an officer opened the closet, flashlight slicing through the dark. You're safe now, he said. They caught him running across the back field, dirty coveralls, a cheap half-mask that made his face look blank and wrong. When they searched him, they found zip ties and a kitchen knife. The officer told me they'd had calls all week, a man going door to door after midnight, always wearing the same outfit. Always calm. Always polite. He never stole anything. Never said a word about why. And they still don't know what he wanted. It started on a Thursday night. I'd just gotten home from work around 9:30, threw together a bowl of cereal, and hopped onto my setup to chill for a bit. My crew and I usually played late, kind of our thing. Most of them worked night shifts, so I was always the first one online. That night felt normal. I loaded up a few solo matches, just zoning out, until my phone buzzed. Unknown number. Didn't think twice. Scam calls are constant, right? I ignored it. A few minutes later, same number again. That got my attention. Scams don't usually double tap you like that. I declined it, but almost instantly it started ringing again. At that point, I figured maybe it was a coworker using someone else's phone, or one of my buddies trolling. So I answered, but stayed quiet. Nothing. No static. No breathing. Just the faint sound of wind, like someone standing outside. Hello? I said. Silence. After a few seconds, I hung up. My stomach felt weird, not scared exactly, just off. 10 minutes later, my friends finally jumped online. First thing I asked was, alright, who's got a new number? They all laughed, totally clueless. When I told them what happened, they started teasing, yo, you got a stalker, or maybe it's a ghost, bro. We laughed it off, and once the game started, I forgot about it. For the next few hours, it was just the usual chaos, trash talk, headshots, energy drinks. Around 2 a.m., everyone started logging off. I leaned back, stretched, and pulled my headset off, still riding the hype from the last match. Then my phone buzzed again. Same number. But this time, it wasn't a call. It was a text. I saw the preview, an image. My chest went tight. I opened it, and froze. It was a picture of me. Sitting right there at my desk. Same clothes. Same chair. Same lighting. The photo was taken from behind me. I spun around so fast my chair slammed the wall. The room was empty. The only thing behind me was the window, blinds half open. Whoever took it had to be outside. That thought weirdly helped. At least they weren't in the house. I rushed to the window, peeked through the blinds, nothing. Just darkness and my own reflection. I locked it, shut the blinds tight, and just stood there, trying to steady my breathing. Then I sent the picture to our group chat. If this is one of you guys, it's not funny. Replies came flying in, bro, what the hell? Where'd you get that? Call the cops, man. They weren't joking anymore. My hands were shaking as I zoomed in on the photo. On my monitor's reflection, there was something. A blur. A shape. A face. Not clear, but definitely someone standing way too close behind me. My heart dropped. I grabbed a screwdriver from my desk, the closest thing to a weapon, and crept toward my bedroom door. I didn't want to believe it, but I had to check. I eased the door open, stepped into the hallway. Silence. Only the hum of my PC behind me. I hugged the wall, moving slow toward the living room. The air felt heavy, like even the house was holding its breath. I reached the corner, and that's when I saw it. The front door. Standing wide open. The front door was open just a crack, just enough for cold night air to seep in. My porch light flickered weakly, throwing these pale, shifting shadows across the floor. For a few seconds, I just stood there, completely frozen. I knew I'd locked that door earlier. I always did. Then I noticed something worse, faint muddy footprints on the hardwood. They started at the doorway, and stopped right at the edge of the hallway. Someone had been inside. I gripped the screwdriver tighter, forcing myself to take one slow step at a time. My breathing was too loud, like it didn't belong in the silence. Hello? I called out, trying to sound calm. My voice cracked halfway through. No answer. I checked the kitchen, empty. Dining area, nothing. Every corner made my skin crawl. But the scariest thought wasn't that someone had been there. It was that they might still be. When I got to the back door, my stomach dropped again. It was unlocked, and the spare key I kept in the latch was gone. Then I heard a buzz. My phone, still on my desk. Same number. I ran back and grabbed it. I didn't want to answer, but some dumb part of me thought maybe this would finally end if I did. I yelled, "Who the hell are you? What do you want?" Silence. Just that same faint static from before, like wind blowing past a mic. "Stop calling me." I shouted. The static shifted, and then I heard it. Breathing. Slow. Close. "Get out of my house," I hissed. "I'm calling the cops." There was a long pause. Then a whisper, calm and clear, "So am I." The call ended. I just stared at the screen, my pulse in my throat. That voice didn't sound scared or desperate. It sounded, in control. I immediately called 911. My hands were shaking so bad I could barely hit the buttons. When the dispatcher picked up, I spilled everything, the calls, the photo, the open door. She told me to get out now and wait outside for the officers. Stepping out honestly felt worse than staying. But I knew I had to. I flipped on every light I passed, grabbed my keys, and walked out into the cold. The street was dead quiet, not even a car passing. I locked the door behind me and waited by my car, flashlight in hand. Every single shadow looked like it was watching. A few minutes later, 2 police cruisers rolled up, red and blue lights cutting through the dark. The officers went inside while I waited on the porch, barely breathing. When they came back out, one of them, tall guy, tired eyes, said, "No one's here. But we found something you should see." He led me to my desk. My computer monitor was on. There was a new picture open, one that definitely wasn't there before. It was me. Standing outside next to my car. Taken just minutes earlier. My throat went dry. The officer glanced at me. "You didn't take this, right?" I just shook my head. "No. I've been right here with you." He leaned in, frowning. "Looks like whoever it is got remote access to your system. You got a webcam?" "Yeah," I whispered. "Built into the monitor." He nodded slowly. "Then he's been watching you. Probably recording, too." They took the computer, traced the number, but it was a burner. Totally unregistered. Could have been a hacker, a stalker, or something in between. They couldn't prove anything. After that, I changed my locks, replaced my phone, even crashed at a friend's place for a while. Things finally went quiet. No more calls. No pictures. Nothing. I started to think it was over. Until last week. I was watching a movie late at night when my phone buzzed. Unknown number. My chest tightened. I almost didn't answer. But I did. At first, just static again. Then, a quiet laugh. "Nice new place." The line went dead. I ran to the front window, ripped the curtains open, and there it was. A car parked across the street. Lights off. Someone sitting inside, their face lit only by the faint glow of a phone screen. Before I could grab my own phone to record it, the car was gone.